Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to play a game I found on itch.io called Kanau. So let's start.
Where the hell am I?
The young man groaned aloud, fishing his cell phone out of his pants pocket. The artificial light was blinding in the darkness. He tapped impatiently at the map on his phone, but it just continued cycling through a series of dots, refusing to load. He wiped the sweat from his brow and looked around. The moonlight tricked through the treetops, painting white streaks along the forest floor. There was just enough light that Carter could avoid tripping over his own feet. Still, he could not see through the darkness surrounding him. He could not even distinguish the shape of the individual trees. They just looked like single mass, smothering him with their shadows. An economics student at Tricone University, Carter was an avid hiker, taking any opportunity to venture into the wilderness as a way to procrastinate on his studies. While he was scrolling through his free time at work, he had found a post about a trail they had not visited in the mountains up north. Why not, he thought. He had grown a little tired of his usual trails, and it wasn't too far, a 2 or 3 hour drive on the highway. Unfortunately, the traffic on the interstate had been surprisingly crowded for a Saturday morning. After making it off the freeway and stopping quickly for a sandwich, it was already early afternoon. It had taken him another hour and a half to find the trailhead, nestled off the side of the road in a particularly untroubled region of the forest. The sign was faded so badly they could only read half of the letters. At this point, he probably should have turned back, but he pressed on. He already invested too many of his precious weekend hours to not do what he came for. He was already lost before the sun went down. When the light disappeared and he was plunged into inky darkness, he was doomed. Carter waved the phone in the air as high as he could reach, praying that he could at least get one bar.
Are you lost?
A young boy was standing in the shadows of the tree nearby, moonlight illuminating his ink-black hair. He wore a white kimono and a pair of wooden genta.
Yeah. I was on the trail to Cherry Falls, but I must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. By the time I knew it, it was completely dark. Been wandering around trying to find the trail. Do you live around here? Could you point me in the right direction?
Yeah, I can take you back to the road.
You sure? Awesome.
Carter hoped over a few protruding tree roots and to the boy's side and started following him into the forest.
I'm Carter. What's your name?
Raku.
Raku?
That's a cool name. How old are you?
10.
The lapse into the awkward silence. Carter wasn't sure how to talk to a 10-year-old. His sister was only a few years younger, and most of his cousins were older than him. Carter looked at the kid out of the corner of his eye. The boy was eerily pale, his skin shining like ceramic in the moonlight. With his hair and clothes, he reminded Carter of a ghost from one of those Japanese horror films. The dark circles around Raku's eyes gave him a much older air that didn't match his childish face. The kid walked slowly, his eyes nervously filtering about his surroundings. Carter grew a little uneasy. What if the boy doesn't actually know where he's going? Still, the college student followed Raku's obediently. He didn't have any other options after all.
So, what were you doing out here? Wandering around by yourself? Even if it's close to your house, it's dangerous to be out this late.
Raku's eyes widened and then narrowed.
I was, getting out of the house.
Getting out of the house? Why?
I guess I don't like my home very much.
Fighting with your parents?
The college student's eyes softened in understanding. He remembered that age too well. He had fought with his parents often. As an adult, those childish squabbles seemed so small and inconsequential, inconsequential to him now.
What about? Wanna talk about it?
It's hard to explain.
The child fell silent again.
How do you feel about your parents? Are they nice?
She gets mad. A lot.
Your mom? About what?
All sorts of things. My grades, the way I act, and the stuff I wear. Everything. She's never happy, and she's always comparing me to my sister. It feels bad.
What happened this time?
Raku averted his gaze and bit his lip. After a moment, he looked up at Carter, hesitant.
It was a big argument this time. My family's not like everyone else's. We have a long history and a lot of traditions. When children are my age, you have to start doing your family duties. But I really don't want to.
Why is that?
It makes me uncomfortable.
Carter sensed that the kid didn't want to go into more detail. He smiled.
Well, even if you're young, I think that you shouldn't be afraid of setting some boundaries. If something makes you uncomfortable, you should say so. Family traditions are important, but you are important too. Your parents should listen to what you have to say.
I don't think I can do that.
Sure you can. Your parents love you. They should respect your opinions. If you're open and honest with them, then I think that they'll understand. At the very least, it's better than running off. You're going to make them worried sick.
He looked up in the sky and admired the moon.
I used to fight with my dad all the time, over the silliest stuff. I told myself that when I was old enough, I was gonna leave and never talk to him again. But when I got older, I realized that he was just looking out for me, you know? I don't know your parents, but I'm sure they're looking out for you in their own way.
I'm gonna have a feeling that Carter's gonna die.
You have a dad?
Yeah, I love him a lot. It's his birthday at the end of the month, actually. I'm taking him to a basketball game. I already got the tickets and everything. And I got him a gift. A new putter to up his golf game. One of those really fancy ones. Cost me 2 months of my paycheck.
So no food? For that month? Carter looked at his phone took his phone out to check the time. When his screen lit up, his eyes brightened.
Oh wait, I got some bars. No, crap, Tabby. Wait, pretend you didn't hear that.
After a fierce tapping on his phone, Carter glanced at the boy, feeling guilty for his foul tongue.
What's wrong?
My sister called me like 5 times. Wait a sec, I'm gonna see if I can text her back.
The pair stopped, however, no matter how much Carter waved his phone at the sky, it was useless.
Can't get any bars. I'll have to call her when we get back to the road.
Carter started to walk, but to his surprise, Raku didn't follow. The college student turned around and reached down to hold the boy's hand. Raku's chilly fingers were trembling.
What's wrong? Are you tired?
No, I'm okay.
They started walking again, though Raku shrugged so slowly that you would have thought that the kid was manifesting a malfunctioning robot.
You have a sister?
Yeah. She's 17 now. She wants to go to Tricone University, just like me. She's coming in tomorrow night to see the campus. She was calling to make sure that I brought the conditioner that she likes. Don't ask me why she couldn't just bring some.
I don't know.
If you don't make it back, then what's she going to do? Is she going to be stuck outside?
Carr chuckled.
Don't worry. She's not going to come in until evening. I've got plenty of time to make it back to pick her up at the airport. Ow!
Raku squeezed his hand now, so tightly that it felt like the fingers were being crushed. The boy turned around and started dragging the college student in the opposite direction.
Where are we?
I made a mistake. This isn't the way to the road. We need...
Cool.
The boy froze. Slowly he turned. Carr turned to look too. A woman was standing behind them. Standing in the shadows of the trees, she wore a dark blue kimono. Her hands folded so neatly in front of her that she looked like a statue. The shadows bent over her, paint her in darkness. She had a refined aura, with a classic, timeless beauty. A woman better suited to be captured with the ink strokes of a blush pen than a high definition camera. Carter couldn't quite pinpoint her age, somewhere between 20 and 50. From the way she dressed and acted, she looked like she belonged to the rest of the set of a historic Japanese drama, not real life.
Is this your mom?
Carr whispered to the boy, but Raku ignored him.
You've been watching?
The boy's fingers, shaking now, clampy and cold, holding Carr's hand in a firm grip.
Of course. And it's a good thing that I did. I should have known you'd do something like this. Ruin my efforts after I went through all that trouble to find you a good human for your first time.
I'm not doing anything. I caught him and I was taking him back, just like I promised.
Stop lying. You're always lying. I saw you. You're trying to take him to the road.
Carr's skin felt icy. There was something very wrong about the situation. He tried to warm his hand of Raku's grasp, but the boy held fast.
Stay behind me. I caught him. That's enough, isn't it?
The consumption is just as important as the hunt, if not more so. You know that.
He's a good person. A really good person. He's kind, and he cares about his father. He has a little sister, too. He's meeting her tomorrow. If he's not there, then she'll be left out in the cold with no place to go.
The woman sighed.
I'm disappointed. I thought that I taught you better. Yet here you are, so easily swayed by a human's guile.
Yeah, and this is. I wonder what they are.
You just haven't seen the world yet. You don't understand. This man is wicked, like so many other humans. You found him in these woods, didn't you? Right here, trespassing on our land, acting like the entire earth is his property. Such egotism deserves to be punished, doesn't it?
Wait, it's property? I'm trespassing? Okay, I'm sorry.
Still, I don't think that he should die. Just for that.
Carr grasped the hairs on the back of his neck, standing on end. He stared wide-eyed at the boy. Was Raku being serious?
Can't he say that he's sorry?
How childish. disobeying me, Raku? Why are you always like this? Always so impertinent and obstinate. You never listen to me.
The boy stood his ground, his voice tinged with the slightest hint of defiance.
I don't want to. You should respect what I have to say.
The woman trembled, her eyes glazing over with icy rage. Car stood in shock and watched 4 twisted black lumps sprawling from her back. She wasn't human. If anything, she looked like a ghoul from Tokyo Ghoul. A spider. When the woman lunged forward towards the pair, Car screamed, jerking his hand out of Raku's grasp. However, he didn't make it far. He trembled. Agony shot through his legs like bullets. Lying on the ground, Car wheezed. The pain that sneered through his calves were quickly replaced by cold numbness. Though he tried to stand up, his legs wouldn't listen to him. They dangled from his torso like tubes of jelly. He scrambled at the nearby tree roots, trying to use them to drag himself along the ground. The woman raised an eyebrow before spearing the helpless college student in the middle of the back. With one of her spider legs, he collapsed, completely paralyzed, unable to do anything except blink.
And as for you...
As Raku's vision went black, the only thing that he could hear was a disappointment in his mother's voice. Raku's vision went black. The only thing he could hear was a disappointment in his mother's voice.
We're going home.
When Raku woke, his head throbbed. The side of his head was damp. His mouth was swimming in the taste of metal. He coughed, blood spurting from his nose and lips. He struggled to get on his elbows. Off the cold stone floor, he was sitting in a familiar room, lit by a couple of Miku lanterns. The flames inside filled the space with dim orange light. There was the basement underneath the Modinu estate. It was a room with no name, no official purpose. The dark underbelly where the family hid all the things that they didn't want to be seen. It was a room where they kept disobedient children. Raku had been locked in here countless occasions, suffocated by the cold, damp darkness until he repented for his wrongdoings. It was also the room where the Komodis kept their prey captive until they grew hungry. And it was a room where they fed. The flames from the lanterns flickered once more, shadows dancing along the walls. The Komodi March sat on the other end of the room, of the steps leading out of the basement. Her posture was impeccable. Back straight and knees bent to the right angle, like a posed doll. Her komodo was neatly folded, with not a wrinkle out of place. Blood dripped out of her mouth, down her neck. The under layer that she wore under the dark blue komodo was freckled with crimson, stains blooming from small red flowers in the white field. Carter was lying at the bottom of the stairs. His torso had been slashed down the middle from his throat to his previous. His ribs had been cracked open, sprouting out like a pair of blood-stained wings on either side of his chest cavity. Inside, the restored organs glistened dark pink in the dark firelight, ripped for consumption. It smelled delicious.
Look, I got everything ready for you. Now you just need to eat.
Raku shook his head, unable to tear his eyes from Car's consorted corpse.
I'm not hungry.
This is your duty. You'll eat whether you're hungry or not.
I don't want to eat. I'm not going to eat.
Do you want to humiliate me? What will everyone think, knowing that the Komode heir is too scared and soft to do his duties? That I raised a son like that.
She dug her fingers into Car's abdominal cavity, extracting a plump, dark red organ. She held it out towards Raku.
Come. Here. This is the liver. Truly a delicacy. You'll like it.
The boy didn't move. He just stared at the corpse's face. Car's expression of anguish already stiffened from the rigor mortis. Raku thought about the college student's comforting smile earlier that evening and the gentle way that Car held his hand. He shuddered, guilt stabbing his heart like 1,000 needles. His mother sighed.
When you were born, I should have killed you. There's no room for males in our family, as you know.
Raku pursed his lips. He had heard the story from his mother's countless times, endless reminders of how he should be grateful just to be alive. The Komode family was made almost entirely of women. When the spider demons needed to procrastinate, they would seduce some men off the side of the road and eat him after the deed was done. If the baby was a daughter, they would treasure her, the precious cohabitation of the family bloodline. And if the baby was a boy, they would eat him.
But I couldn't kill you. I loved you too much. And because I loved you, I went against everyone to keep you alive. You love me, don't you, Raku? If you love me, then you eat.
But Raku didn't agree. He didn't move to accept his mother's offering.
No.
The woman lunged forward, seizing Raku's chin and forcing open his mouth. She pressed the organ against his lips, its blood dripping down his face and clothes.
No! No, 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 no!
The boy screamed, cried, wrestled, scratched, bit everything he could do to escape her grasp. His spider legs sprouted from his back and crawled at his mother, tearing her clothes, drawing fine lines of red along her skin. The woman seized her collar and threw him to the ground, crushing the liver in her fist and tossing it at him too.
Fine. If you want to act like an adult, then I'll treat you like one. Maybe then you'll learn.
Rocco tried to claw it away. His stomach scraped against the cold basement floor. He screamed when the woman speared him through the thigh, pinning him in place like a butterfly pinned to a corkboard. She stroked one of the limbs protruding from his back. Her tampered fingertips gliding through the smooth black surface. She grabbed one and pulled. Then Raku's mother ripped the legs off him one by one. One. She pressed her ginta into the small of Riku's back as she pulled, crushing the air out of his lungs. 2. Every time she took off a limb, she ate it as she tore through the ectoskin. The sickening crunches resounded through the basement. 3. She only halted when he stopped struggling. He laid on the floor, sprawled out like a specimen, almost completely motionless. His one remaining spider leg convulsed, the remnants of pain showing through his nerves endings. The woman licked her lips before returning to the stairs. When she opened the door, she turned around one last time.
I'm doing all of this because I love you. I love you and I want the best for you. If you want to live, then you'll eat.
The door closed. When the boy rose from his stupor, he was weak, blood gushing from the stumps of his back, trickling down his skin and staining the white of his kimono. He knew what his mother had meant. Spider demons like him could recover from crippling energies like this, but only if they ate, and only if they ate something big, something like a deer, or a cow, or a human. In the basement, there was only one thing to eat. Riku tried to look at Kara's corpse, but he couldn't. Instead, he shifted his gaze to the liver from his mother had dropped to the ground. It shone dark crimson, the lamplight drizzling off the surface. He reached down and picked it up. It was soft, wet, with the lingering warmth from his mother's iron grip. He raised it to his mouth. He held his breath, and he bit down. He raised it. Okay. It tasted so good. It was almost delicious. It was the most delicious thing that Raku had eaten in his entire life. The organ melted his mouth like a fine marble steak. The tender sweetness spilled over his tongue. He wanted more. He wanted to lick every morsel of the meat off the floor. He wanted to bury his face in the human's chest cavity and devour him until there was nothing more but bones. He approached the corpse, reaching for the succulent meat along the ribs. And he saw Car's face, his twisted, agony-filled expression. And the boy remembered how happily the college student had spoken of his father and sister. Raku vomited. A liquid mixture of acid and chewed up liver spurted onto the ground. The boy gagged, continuing to heave along after his stomach was empty. He crawled to the opposite side of the room, as far from the corpse as he could. He curled up against the wall. In the darkness of the basement, the boy made a wish. It was a quiet, pointless wish. He had no fairy godmother that would hear him, no magical guardian that would grant his plea. He wished, like so many before, would go unanswered. No one was coming to save him. A pair of small, pale feet sprinted along the tatami. I know it is. I just can't pronounce it when I read it. They made small tapping sounds as they made contact with the floor, like droplets of water falling into a small pond. Kayu knew that she wasn't supposed to run in the house, but the residents of the Kumamodu house, Kumodu house rarely abolished the precious youngest child, after being watered with nothing but exclusive plays for 6 years of his innocence, the girl had will to no fear. The girl had will to fear. Anyway, it was an emergency, a super secret special mission. Raku had been locked in the basement for 2 days now. When Kayo asked her mother why, mother said it was because Raku wasn't eating. They would let him out once he ate something. That confused the girl. Her brother liked to eat. He did it all the time. Rice, meat, fish, vegetables, noodles. He wasn't picky. He ate anything, everything. Anything without complaint. Kayo said that they should make Raku his favorite. Do. Maybe he would eat. But mother shook her head and patted Kayo's hair. She said that Raku wasn't a good child. He wasn't like Kayo, who ate whenever she was told. He needed a lesson and learn a lesson. Kayo pouted, but she didn't protest. Mother was right. Why was Raku being so bad? Still, she worried for her big brother. The basement was dark and damp, and it smelled horrible. He was probably crying down there. She knew that he cried sometimes when he was alone and thought no one was watching. So she was going on a secret mission to save him just this once. The little girl ran into her room and made a beeline for the basket lying in the corner. It was filled to the brim with dolls and other stuffed toys, neatly arranged like a bouquet. She rummaged through the basket, taking the dolls out and throwing them to the side until she reached the bottom. There weren't many places to hide things in her room. Mark could easily find anything that was stored in the normal places. The drawers, the closet, the futon. Raku had helped Kayo find this little hiding place, a secret just for the two of them. The bottom of the basket was lined with knitted blanket, decorated with small pink flowers. The girl pulled that out too. Her treasure laid beneath the blanket. Oh, sweets. Kayo rarely ate sweets. She was only allowed to eat dessert on special occasions like birthdays and New Year's. Even then, she usually ate homemade mochi, jelly, and red bean soup. Mother always said that human desserts were filled with poison. Still, the little girl's mouth watered whenever they went to the grocery store and she saw the candies lined up next to the checkout, encased in glossy plastic wrappers like pieces of a treasure. Last month, Raku had ushered her into his room. Holding a finger to his lips, he took out his backpack and showed her what was inside. When she saw those sparkling pieces of candy, her eyes lit up. They shimmered as bright as lanterns against the dark fringe of her bangs. Raku explained that he had gotten them at school as a part of Halloween. Kayo had never had chocolate before. She savored every bite, nibbling in an attempt to make the candy last as long as possible. When he said that, Raku laughed and gave her all 5 bars. Since then, Kayo had treasured the candy, only sneaking it out every once in a while to take a small bite. It was undeniably precious. When she took it out of the basket, she swallowed, unsure whether she was ready to give it up. No, she was. Even if the candy was her treasure, her brother was more important. Raku wasn't eating because the food wasn't good, but he would eat this candy. Then Mother would forgive him and let him out. Kyle gathered the remaining bars in her arms. She ran through the hallway, carefully to tiptoe around the doorways. It took her a few minutes to arrive at the basement, which was almost on the other side of the house. She looked down the stairs, a little scared. She didn't like going down there. She was never gone to the basement without Mother. I love the storytelling. She swallowed and crept down the stairs. She treaded lightly on each step, as if each one was a balloon that would pop at any moment. Her legs shook, and she clutched the candy bars in her arms so tightly that they started to melt, rubbing creamy brown stains on her skin. Kyle let out a sigh of relief when she reached the bottom. She licked the chocolate off her hands, and she looked at her next obstacle. The heavy wooden double doors towered over the little girl. The light from the hallway cast a dull shine on the dark red paint. The handles were locked together with a heavy metal chain as thick as Kaio's forearm. She jumped up and grabbed the chain, jiggling it, but it was no good. It was locked securely. She grabbed one of the handles and pulled, putting all her weight into it. Slowly, the door dragged along the ground. The chain prevented it from moving very far, but she was able to get an inch-wide gap between the door. The room beyond the gap was pitch black, like paper, dust, and ink. Kaio called out into the darkness.
Raku?
There was no response. Her arms were starting to hurt from holding the door open. Still, she held fast and kept calling.
Raku! Raku, it's me!
Finally, she heard movement from inside the room. However, the sound was a little strange. She didn't hear footsteps. Instead, she heard scrapping, as if someone was dragging something along the ground. Something hit the door, and suddenly it was much less heavy. Even when Kaio let go of the door's handle, it stayed in place. She tried to peek through the gap. The angle made it difficult to see, but she could vaguely make out her brother's silhouette as he leaned against the door.
Hey, Kaio.
Kaio, okay. His voice was hoarse and thin, like spider silk.
Mother said that you can't come out because you're not eating. Why not?
Not hungry.
Kaio pouted.
You should just eat. It's bad not to do what Mother says. Anyway, I brought you a present.
She fumbled the candy bars through the gap. Her fingertips grazed Raku's palm as he accepted them. His skin was cold, clampy, and slightly sticky.
You still had these. Did you not like them?
I did like them. I like them a lot. But you're hungry, right? So I'm giving them to you.
Why did you nibble on all of them? Gross.
The girl's face flushed pink.
If you don't want them, give them back.
No, I want them.
Kaio waited with bated breath as her brother ate the candy.
That was good. Thanks.
I'll go tell Mother that you ate.
However, before the girl could run off, Raku stopped her.
Wait, don't get her yet. I'll, tell her myself when she comes down.
Caillou pouted.
Okay. Don't stay down here too long. I'll ask them to make your favorites for dinner tomorrow.
The girl disappeared. Up the stairs, her bare feet tapping against the hard wood. When Raku couldn't hear his sister anymore, he crawled onto his hands and knees. He reached behind to touch the bloody stumps on his back. The cannon gave him a modicum of energy, enough to seal his wounds. When he was no longer bleeding out onto the floor, he examined the door. There was still a gap between them. Moments later, a small spider slipped through the gap. It crawled onto the walls, down the walls, and onto the gates, disappearing into the shadowy forest surrounding the estate. When the Kamei Marach returned to check the basement later in the evening, her son was nowhere to be seen. Four days, Raku ran. He didn't know where he was going or where he wanted to go. He just knew that he wanted to get away, to flee as far from the cesspool of Vimon he could, to a place where none of the Kamanos would find him. Ever find him. The boy had a few different forms that he could transform into. He could, of course, assemble an ordinary human boy. He could also morph into a monstrous, human-sized spider, capable of biting a person's head in two. For a while, he transformed into a gigantic spider self, skimming between the treetops with ease. However, he could no longer keep up that form for long. Caillou's candy had given him an energy he needed to seal his wounds, but not much else. After that, he turned into his human form. Some passerbys looked with concern at the boy who was walking alone on the highway. His tattered white komodo was drenched with crimson, as if he had been doused in red paint. His feet were bloodied from walking bare along the asphalt. However, by the time the police were called, the boy had disappeared. After 4 days passed, Raku could no longer maintain his human form either. Weakened from his energies and blood loss, he transformed into his last form, his last resort. A small, ordinary spider. He couldn't run very far like this, so he found some shelter. He stumbled onto a nearby neighborhood and hurled into the shadow of a garbage bin, waving himself a small web to sit on. The boy wasn't very skilled at catching prey. He only managed to hunt a single fly in 3 days. However, it was enough to keep him alive. It wasn't a bad existence. Raku thought he could just sit here peacefully as an ordinary spider and catch insects every once in a while. He'll never have to return to that house or the basement or that life. However, his hopes were short-lived. Life on the outside came with him with its own harsh realities. One evening, Raku woke with a start. A large pair of hazel eyes staring down at him. At the next moment, a paw crashed down onto his web like a tidal wave, ripping his small abode. Assured. Cat. Raku scrambled to get away, but he stumbled. He was still missing the free legs that his mother had ripped from his back, making it difficult to keep his balance. He collapsed on the ground, an easy target for the feline hunter. The cat smashed its paw on one of Raku's remaining legs, pin him in place. For a few minutes, the cat played with its prey. He would let Raku go, and before the spider could scramble away, he would crush Raku's abdomen beneath its paw again. When the feline, tired of its game, started to swing at Raku, battling the spider around it like a ball. Raku took the opportunity to flee. Darting into the grass, he ran faster than he ever ran in his entire life, the cat's hot breath on his heels. He jumped onto the wall of a nearby house, scaling it as he dodged the cat. It's frantic swipes there. The window was cracked, sealed with a hazard mess of duct tape. Raku slipped into the gap in the glass. The cat hissed, pawed at the glass before retreating. I think this is his love interest's house. He was in what looked like a child's room, though it was somewhere bare. Some mattress covered the pink bedspread. In the corner, a couple of animal flushies lay on top of them. A small desk resided in the opposite corner. The skull handouts were neatly arranged into a file organizer. The array of markers, pens, and pencils were all placed onto the homemade ceramic mug decorated with a panda. The books in the bookshelf were meticulously lined up, organized by series. A couple of words for academic achievement were taped to the walls. The room was empty. Raku crawled up the wall towards the ceiling, hoping to find some spot to rest. He was feeling so faint. Raku joyed awake when the ground beneath him moved. He was staring into a pair of massive brown eyes. He jumped, skidded around, finding himself on a human hand. The girl squeaked, dropped Raku on the bed. He tried to scurry away, but he was too tired. He hurled into pale pink bedspread, shaking. Yep, this is technically his love interest, so... And what's funny, I'm supposed to play the pre-sequel after the first game, but I'm playing the pre-sequel now. So, I don't know who she is, I didn't know who he is. I'm just watching the Yandere origin story.
So you are still alive. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry.
She cupped her hands beneath Raku, scooping him into her palms. She deposited him in the windowsill.
The window's broken, so I can't open it. But there's a crack there. You should be able to get out.
However, Raku didn't move. He looked outside. He could see the cat prowling around, stretching its claws. When the spider didn't leave, the girl leaned forward and examined Raku.
Is it because you're hurt? You don't have all your legs. You're missing... Gosh, you lost 3 of them. Did you come in here because you were hurt and scared?
The girl bit her lip in thought before turning to leave the room.
Wait here.
Raku leaned on the windowsill, not quite sure what to do. Should he try to run into some deserted corner of the girl's room? Should he test his luck against the cat again? His thoughts were foggy. His body felt weak, too dehydrated to move properly. Before he could decide, the girl returned. She was holding a knife. Raka shrunk back towards the wall, looking around for some way to escape. But she didn't try to stab him. Instead, she took out an empty glass jar and a plastic lid. She took the knife and poked several holes into the lid before putting it on the jar. Testing the fit, the girl then scooped up her hands under Raku. He didn't resist. He was too weak to escape anyway. She gently dropped him into the jar. The sour scent of pickled lingered on the inside of the glass, but realized it was clean and well arranged. Soft soil layered the bottom with an array of twigs and dead leaves around the top. An orange bottle cap set in the corner, filled with clean water. Rocco crawled around, poking the sticks and leaves. He dripped his fangs into the water. The liquid was cool and refreshing. The girl dropped the corpse of a small moth inside next to Raku.
I think that spiders eat insects. This is all I can find for now, but I'll get you some more later.
She brushed the fragments of plastic from the lid before screwing it over the top of the jar. Raku looked up with a little apparition as his escape route disappeared.
I read that spiders can regrow their legs when they molt. I won't keep you in there forever. You can just stay a little while until your legs grow back. Okay?
The girl tapped the glass a few times and smiled.
Don't worry. You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you.
Rocco's chest felt strange. No one has ever told him that before, that he was safe. He never felt safe, not at home, not in his mother's arms, not in his own bed. Even when things were okay, he knew that the calm was temporary. If he did anything wrong, no matter how small, that peace would be ripped away in an instant. Raku relaxed. The small jar, was somehow comforting. It wasn't too bad. Being in the girl's cage, it was better than his cage back home, at least. And so, Raku's life as the girl's pet began. She took care of him. When she was at school, she kept him hidden next to the bed. But when she returned, she put him on the windowsill to get some sun. She changed his water twice a day. Every day, she searched for dead insects, making sure he had a steady supply of food. She even kept a notebook where she made notes about his condition, his energy levels, his appetite, the current state of his legs. Slowly, Raku recovered. He wasn't overused with his meals, but they gave him much needed energy. He couldn't regale his missing limbs. He would need to eat a much larger meal for that. But after a few days, he had recovered enough to turn back into a human if he wanted to. Still, he stayed in the girl's jar. He didn't have a reason to leave. In fact, he rather liked it there. There was free members of the girl's household. The woman always left first. After waking up, she would sluggishly plaster some makeup on before microwaving some last night's dinner. Before leaving, she checked that she had enough cash in her wallet for lunch and groceries. She wasn't allowed to have a credit card. Lastly, she would rush out of the house before the break of dawn. The girl left second. Her mornings were ordinary. She woke up, brushed her teeth, got dressed, neatly arranged her cereal and milk on the table before eating. Oh, she has OCD. Making sure that the dishes were clean and her backpack was zipped tight before walking out before it's time to meet the bus. The man didn't leave. He never woke up on time, at the same time. Sometimes he would rise an hour after the girl left, and sometimes he would still be in bed long after afternoon. As soon as the man rose, he meandered to the kitchen, where he cracked open a cold beer, opened the fridge, cursed, and then ordered takeout. After that, he sat on the couch for another productive day of alcohol-muddled television as he waited for his wife to return home to cook dinner. Yeah, her house kind of sucks. Why is mom not allowed to have a credit card? The girl's wife was quiet. She went to school, came home, fed Raku, did her homework, and ate dinner. She had some free time. She would read through books that she had checked out from the library, including a few about spider biology. She also kept a couple of containers filled with soil on the windowsill. She carefully watered those containers every day, waiting for them to sprout. Sometimes she would take out her video game console, a small yellow handheld Pow Play. Oh, you mean like a Game Boy? She laid on the bed, tossing herself in the virtual world until it was time to go to sleep. The girl talked to Raku often. She wasn't expecting a response, of course, but she was just liked having someone to talk to, someone who would listen. They were normal little conversations. Sometimes she would tell him about her day at school, or about her favorite book, or about a video game that she wished that she could buy. Sometimes she chattered about random animal facts that she had memorized. Sometimes she rambled about her dreams for the future. Raku listened. He liked hearing her talk about all the little things. They were different and new. He had spent almost his entire life in the Kanau estate. He never watched TV or played games. He was always told not to talk too much to other kids at school. He had never thought about what the future might look like. The boy treasured those chats. It was as if the girl's life was a flower field, and she was showing him those flowers one at a time. One chilly afternoon, the girl burst into the room. She grabbed Raku, bashing her backpack irritably.
I went to the pet store today, and they gave me a couple of crickets for free.
She took a big plastic bag out of her backpack. 2 small crickets bounced around the bottom. She dumped the prey into the jar.
Eat up.
She leaned her chin to the on her elbows, watching him with eagerly. He looked at the 2 nervous squeakers with distaste. He would have far preferred meat or anything else, but he couldn't complain. The girl was trying her best. She had no way of knowing that he wasn't a normal spider. It wasn't difficult to catch 2 crickets in the small container. Raku sank his jaws into the bottom of them, into both of them, stuffing out their lives with venom. He set them aside before beginning to make a meal of the other. The girl smiled and took a notebook out of her file organizer. She carefully selected black, orange, and pink pens before she began making her notes about Raku's condition for the day. Today Mr. Spider looks very healthy. His legs haven't grown back yet, but She also made notes about the plants on her windowsill, beaming when she saw that they had sprouted.
You know, you aren't my first pet. I used to have a cat, a really cute tabby. I named him Summer. He liked to sleep in my bed, and he always purred when I scratched him behind the ears. But whenever Dad got mad at me, he would hurt Summer. And he would tell me that it was my fault.
Okay, your dad is a piece of garbage human being. He should be put in a jail cell and never let out. You don't hurt hurt the cat or dog. He definitely needs some thrown in the prison and not hold the key. And inmates would probably still beat him up, like if he touched a kid, just like if he touched a kid or something. Because animal abuse is no joke.
I was afraid that Summer would. That my dad would. So I gave Summer away to my friend.
The girl smiled and tapped the glass.
It's nice that you're so small. Easy to hide. When I grow up, I'll be a vet. Then I can have as many pets as I want. And I can take care of them too.
The bang resounded from the kitchen, followed by several curses. The girl picked up and she opened the door, a crack, listening intensely. She returned to her desk and grabbed her headphones and her PAL play, and she headed to the door. However, after a moment of hesitation, she turned around. The girl picked up Raku's jar and held it to her chest. She opened the door to her room. The cursing was louder now. The slurring, incarnate words echoed throughout the house like growls of a beast. The girl could hear her mother's voice too, softer, her words of anger steeped in hesitance and fear. This is time to get away from him. She makes the money. The husband doesn't. The girl tiptoed down the hallway. She entered the bathroom, locked the door behind her. She didn't turn on the light. Instead, she placed Raku's jar on the side of the tub before sitting on the tub's mat next to him. The headphones snapped over her ears, the PAL play illuminating, filled the dark room with a cold white as a logo danced on the screen. I love the animation. Raku chewed on the half-dressed reins of his cricket. Watching the girl play, she had a few different games. A monster collecting RPG where you catch different critters to do battle, an action adventure where you had to rescue a princess from a castle and defeat an evil emperor to save the land. So I'm gonna take a guess and say, Pokémon and Legend of Zelda. But her favorite was a simpler game, Space Blasters. In it, you take control of a spaceship, shooting down a series of enemy ships and alien invaders. Space invaders. The game was endless. Every few seconds, new ships would appear from the other side of the screen. The round only ended when you lost. The girl liked this game. When she played it, she didn't need to worry about the moment where she beat the final boss, the moment when she would inevitably be jolted out of the peaceful virtual world. She could just play forever and ever, even when her fingers started cramping and her eyes began to strain. Her motions were efficient and precise, timed, almost mechanical, the result of years of diligent practice. As soon as one row of enemies ships disappeared, the girl continued to the next. Small white bullets mowing down her opponent viciously. As soon as the girl lost, the round ended and she would restart. The curses and shouting continued, but inside the bathroom they were distant storm. Here the girl was safe, protected by the lock of the door and the headphones over her ears and the comforting distraction of her video game. Here the girl could pretend that she was somewhere else, out of the house, out of reality. Raku stared at the PAL play, memorized by the flashing lights.
That looks fun.
The girl stayed in the bathroom long after the shouts ceased. She only came out when the adult went to bed. Raku started noticing strange things about the girl after that. He noticed when her hair and clothes were musted, as they were typically neat and ordinary. He noticed the bruise that blossomed her skin, the dark marks of her arms and wrist. He noticed when she seemed to withdraw, and quieter than usual. No, I think I know what's gonna happen. He's gonna kill one or both parents. You could hear arguments echoing from the downstairs often. The screams and swears rang through the house. The only quiet place was the girl's room, even almost the din. The girl would sit quietly, trying to be best not to attract any attention. The stone in a storm. A gazelle playing dead in a den of lions. The girl's sprouts grew for a short time, but it wasn't long before they became long and spindly. Soon, they whittled away. They were enough light in this darkened room. The plants reminded him of the girl. Raku thought, a small life struggling to grow in a place that the sun doesn't reach. One afternoon, Raku waited patiently for the girl. He started counting the minutes until her return. He was familiar with what time her bus arrived from school each day. In the distance, he could hear the door open. However, the girl didn't hurry to her room, as she usually did. Murmurs emanated from the living room. They escalated into shouts. There was a cry of pain, more yelling. Not even the closed door could muffle it. They started to argue, if you could call it that. The girl's voice was quiet, and it was barely audible, when the man sounded like a thunderstorm. Eventually, the girl returned. When she picked him up, he could see the splotches on her left cheek, already reddened. Her hair was in disarray too, as if it had been savagely pulled. Okay, that guy, that dad. Okay, if he killed him, good Yandere, good Yandere. He didn't try to talk to her. She didn't try to talk to him. She didn't even take her usual notes either. She just refilled his water, put him on the windowsill, and then curled up on her bed. She didn't move for a long time. When the sun started to set, she finally got up and proceeded with her routine like a robot, showering, doing her homework, eating dinner. She only remembered Raku on the windowsill as she was about to go to bed. She was about to put him on the floor when she reconsidered. She nestled the jar against her pillow and laid next to it.
There were parent-teacher conferences at school today. There were so many cool parents there. There was a doctor and a lawyer and a scientist. One kid's mom even brought in homemade cupcakes.
The girl's gaze lowered.
My mom couldn't come. My dad didn't come either. My friend Emma hasn't been doing that well in school lately. And when her dad came and found out, he was surprised. He started telling her off right in the middle of the courtyard. Then Emma burst into tears. She couldn't stop crying. Do you know what her dad did?
Raku didn't know, but he thought about his own mother. He could already hear the screams, the insults, the derogatory remarks. He already knew that she would throw him in the basement. When he had repented, she would cage him at his desk. She would monitor him as he studied until she was certain he would never make the same mistakes.
He hugged her and he said that he was sorry. He said that he was wrong for scolding her in front of everyone, and he told her that he'd make it up to her. He said that it was okay that her grades weren't perfect and that they could work on it together. I thought
The girl shouted, tears welling in her eyes.
that was so nice. She had such a nice dad.
The girl buried her face into this stuffed orca, unable to continue. Raku's heart twisted for the girl. He remembered how cheerfully she had smiled at him when they first met. He hadn't realized how rare those smiles were. The man downstairs was a demon wearing a human skin, just like Raku, a demon that devoured the smiles of people they should have loved. The world wouldn't moan a demon. Oh, this is gonna be good. He is gonna kill her and kill him. When the woman woke up, she carefully applied the thick layer of foundation over the dark bruise covering her face. She didn't have time to eat breakfast, so she just grabbed the Tupperware from the fridge. She would have to eat later. When the girl woke up, she went about her morning as usual. She filled the spider's water, set him carefully next to the wall by the bed before walking out to catch the bus. When the man woke up, he was groggy. He head spinning from his hangover. The butthole had put him in that woman had put him in a particularly foul mood yesterday. How could she even think about going on a long, expensive trip to visit her sister? Screw that. They couldn't afford that. She's making the money. Sometimes it felt like he was the only one thinking about the family, the only one with an ounce of responsibility in his bones. I normally don't cough on this. Excuse me? So, drinking beer and watching TV is your responsibility. While she's making the money. Go home and find another place. She could kick your butt out. She's probably the one paying for the bills. He waved himself off the couch and went to the fridge. Cracking open a cold beer, he peered inside, searching for food. He cursed. The Tupperware was gone. The woman had probably eaten all the food from last night's dinner before she left for work. Selfish. She had told her over and over again to leave food for him, but she never listened. Well, fend for yourself, you're an adult man. His eyes wandering about the empty house. I mean, I get fed. I've gotten fed by my coworkers, but I can literally feed myself. My dad can feed for himself. Peanut butter jelly sandwich and TV dinners do wonders. His eyes wandered around the empty house. The man's anger was bubbling now, but there was no targets on which he could offload his frustration. The girl was still at school. The woman couldn't be back until the morning. He scrolled and stalked upstairs. He opened the kid's door. The girls usually avoid provoking his ear. She had learned to be meek and unassuming, staying out of her father's sight, so when the man wanted a reason to be angry at his daughter, he had to go looking for it. He rifled for her bookshelf, her desk, her closet, looking for anything that the girl might be hiding. He's definitely going to die, and I will not feel sympathy for him. Then he looked next to the bed.
What the hell is this?
He picked up the jar, dangling it in front of his face. His pupils contracted when he saw the large black spider inside. Raku froze from when he saw the man, too. He had never seen the man before, but he knew that this was the monster that lived downstairs. The man pressed his face against the glass, his breath foggy in the surface. He looked at the spider intensely. Then he put the jar back under the bed. Rocco didn't expect that. He had expected the man to immediately take him and toss him outside or in the toilet. Yet the man just went to the door, shutting it behind him. A few moments later, after the man left, the realization sunk into Rocco like a dagger sinking into his heart.
Oh no.
The girl opened the door. She didn't say anything. No, I'm back. No, I'm hungry. Is there anything to eat? No, rummaging from her, rambling about her friends or her day at school. She knew that her mother wouldn't be at home at this hour. So when she entered the living room, she was surprised to see the man on the couch looking at her. He never did that. He was always too engrossed in his TV or his booze to pay attention to his daughter. As the girl crept through the room to the stairs, the man's eyes followed her. His gaze bored into her back like nails. She felt uneasy. She walked faster, eager to return to her room. As soon as she entered, she dropped her backpack on the ground and went to her bed. She reached down and picked out her pet, examining him. He was a little weird. He was a little weird today. He kept scraping at the glass with his front legs. The door opened with a bang. The girl jumped, neatly dropping the jar. She placed herself against the wall as a fire stalked towards her. He gestured wildly at the spider in her arms.
What the is this thing, Nelly?
Sir, language, I have to edit you out. The girl couldn't speak. Her terror had its hands around her throat, choking every word out of her. She could only wait, trembling, wondering what her father would do next.
Why are you bringing this into my house? My house!
Sir, language. Oh, Da Vinci was off to the rescue.
I've got enough on my plate without you making a mess of everything, bringing disgusting insects in here!
Sir, one thing, spiders aren't insects. They're arachnids. That was grade school. That's something I learned in grade school, sir. He slapped the girl upside the head. She trembled to the floor, head spinning, but she kept her firm grip on the jar. She wouldn't let it fall. The man reached down and tried to grab the container from the girl, but she wrapped herself around it. She huddled on the ground, protecting Raku with all the strength in his small frame. And what happens if this was actually a class project that she was doing? He definitely deserves to be killed by a spider demon and eaten, so he could regrow his legs. That's your key. You can eat this person. She's going to keep the spider safe, she promised. But little girls are no match for adult men. The man flipped the girl over, shaking her like a rag doll. He took her fingers and pried them off, banging them until they felt like they were going to break. When the girl's father had snatched the jar from her grasp, he held it above his head like a trophy. Raku was floating in air. Crumbs of dirt and twigs danced around him. In the next moment, he was falling. No, he was pummeling. Crack. Raku smashed into the cold floorboards in a storm of glass shards. He skidded across the floor like a skipping stone, limbs falling helplessly around the air. I sneezed right there. I had to stop the audio. He finally came to stop under the chest of drawers, landing on a particularly large dust bunny. Before he could get to his feet, Raku jumped. Tremors ran through the ground like an earthquake. As the man stomped around the floor, kicking the glass and dirt everywhere, the girl shrunk against the wall.
Where'd it go?
Sign language. He slammed his hand against the wall.
Clean this shit up. And when you find that thing, kill it. Understand?
No. No, sir. How about you get your drunk butt out of this house and find a job instead of acting like a butthole. The girl was silent. The man spoke again, his voice roaring through the small room.
Did you hear me, Nelly?
No. You weren't loud enough. You'd definitely be beating me up, and then I would go to Child Protective Services with I'll technically make it so there's cameras in this room, and he would get his butt kicked out. Kicked out the house. Actually, would they take me or they take me out. I mean, I still take that chance. This guy's a butthole.
Yeah?
Hell, stupid ass kid. You and that bitch are always making my life hell.
Yeah, sir, get a job. Get a freaking job. If they're making your life that crappy, and you don't make money. Newsflash. You're the one making everyone's life miserable. He gave the remnants of the household a homemade terrarium one last kick before leaving the room, slamming the door behind him. The girl clung to the wall for several more minutes, too shocked to respond. When she could move her trembling legs, she started to sweep up the soil in her hands, and she winced as the small glass shards sank into her skin, stinging her palms. Fat tears rolled down the girl's cheeks. She tried to brush them away, but they continued to gush out. The salty tears intermingling with the stake of blood on her fingers. She opened her mouth, and she made a wish. It was a quiet wish, barely audible, in the room's stiffing silence. A pointless wish, after all. There was no one around to hear it, but the girl just couldn't keep her feelings inside any longer. Her fear, her resentment, her fury, her betrayal, it all bubbled inside, her emotions blowing over in a couple of sentences, brimming with all the hatred she had in her heart.
I wish he'd die. I wish he'd just disappear and die.
So Raku, there is your incentive. Go nuts. Go eat the guy. When she heard those words, the girl felt a tinge of guilt. She didn't want to feel that way about her own father, but at the same time, it was a relief. She had wanted to say those words out loud for so long, to give a voice to the pain that she had locked away. Regardless, the fragile wish didn't mean anything. It would disappear. swallowed by the room's silence. Those words would whittle away like nothing else in this house. Everything else in this house. She looked down. The spider had left its hiding spot under the bed and was looking up at her inspectorally. She scrabbled away the tears. She picked up the spider and deposited him on the windowsill. He turned his head as if giving her one last look farewell before disappearing through the cracked glass. The man clenched the cigarette between his teeth, struggling to light the lighter. When he finally lit it, he took a deep inhale, savoring the sweet, toxic of the tobacco as long as possible. As he exhaled, the pale swirl waltzed into the depths of the night. When the man lifted the cigarette to his lips for the second time, he squinted. There was a dark blob sitting on top of the garbage bin. It was too large to be a cat. He took a step forward. It was a boy, scrawny, youngest-looking boy, wearing some weird tattered costume, like a hospital gown. Know his age? He is gonna eat the guy. Good Rocky. Good Yandere. The boy perched on the bin, arms wrapped tightly around his calves. He rested his chin on his knees. Appraising the man with a pair of eerily icy blue eyes, particularly masked by dark bangs.
What are you doing, kid?
Look at my prey. The boy remained as quiet as a mouse. The man sighed. He took a furred draft, making sure to blow the smoke in the boy's direction.
This is my house, that's my bin. Get out.
The boy didn't respond. Instead, he raised his arms and let his legs down, dangling them over the edge of the garbage bin. However, he made no movements to jump down. The man scrawled. He was feeling irritated, but now he had enough of the snotty little brats today. He tolerated this cheekiness from Nellie because she was his daughter. He wasn't obligated to play along with some stranger. What's your definition of cheekiness? Because she didn't do anything bratty. In fact, I'm pretty sure you're more bratty than your daughter. The man threw the burning cigarette butt down, but not even bothering to stomp it out. He stepped towards the boy, seizing the boy by the collar and lifting him off the bin. The boy didn't panic or fail. He hung there as lifeless and limp as a rag doll.
Get off my property, brat!
The boy's saucer-like eyes widened and blinked once. The man's little spit sprayed all over his face, dousing him in the odor of alcohol and tobacco. In the next moment, the child's arm snatched around the man's neck, yanking it with ferocity, and snapped before the boy's fangs sunk into the man's jaguar. The man didn't get a chance to scream. You think I would? The one time it was something like horror, like for a long time that I would do. I would be going and doing the more monotone voice that I've been doing, and no, that one was deserved. Rock was sat cross-legged on the fallen log, his dining table dimly lit by the moon's watchful eye. Yep, he got some good food right there. The man's body was draped over the log in front of him, though the boy's body was probably too charitable. At this point, he was a little more of a pile of disembodied limbs. Raku whipped his mouth with his sleeves before using the claw attached to his arm to peel another strip of meat, flesh from the man's bones. It was a simple task. The digestive fluid had already softened his meal so much that it was easy to eat oatmeal with a spoon. That it was as easy as eating oatmeal with a spoon. He dropped the meat into his mouth and chewed. The taste was revolting. Well, the meat had the addictive sweetness that Carter's flesh had. It had undercurrents of chemical bitterness and earthly sourness. The man's addictions had permeated his body until its essence was nothing but tobacco and alcohol. Raku's family members would have abandoned the chore of consuming the raw corpse a long time ago. But Raku closed his eyes, held his breath, and swallowed. As masticated scrawled down his throat, images danced along Raku's eyelids. The girl would wake up 5 minutes before her alarm, and as she always did, sunlight dosing her face in a yellow halo. She would sneak quietly into the living room, afraid to wake the man, with his hair-line trigger temper. When she didn't see him, she would probably look around, confused. She would check the other rooms, and when she couldn't find him, her face brightened. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't imagine this part. What would her smile look like? How lovely and radiant would it be? After all, her demon was gone. How happy would she look? Raku grinned to himself, half drunken from the giddiness of the alcohol in his meal. He picked up the half-eaten leg and chomped into it with relish, savoring every foul bite. He was a bad person, a monster, and that was okay. Even though he had succumbed to weaknesses of his heritage and his biology, he had done a good thing. He had made the girl happy. She was free.
I'm a monster. But I can be a monster that does good things. A demon that kills demons.
And that was enough. Even though it was past midnight, and the comedy household was bustling with activity, the servants rushed to the entrance courtyard, jostling each other to get a better view. The young master was standing at the gates. His kimono was filthy. It was tattered, covered in a myriad of bloodstains, old and fresh. He had lost his ginta somewhere, and his feet tickling bloody footsteps onto the well-kept stone paths. Moments after his arrival, the doors of the main house burst open.
Where have you been?
However, before she could continue, Raku thrusted his closed fist in front of his mother's face. Slowly, he unfurled his fingers as he unwrapped a gift. An eyeball set in the palms of his hand. The yellowed white of the eye was laced with red blood vessels, flaming the dilated pupil. The bloody remnants of the optical nerve trailing down his wrist, swaying in the cold night breeze like a trail of a kite. It was a splendid trophy, a fresh eyeball from a human corpse. unmistakable proof that he had fulfilled his duties.
Oh, my Raku.
The woman's eyes were brighter than Raku had ever seen. Her voice was sweeter than he had ever heard. She swept her son into her arms, squeezing him tightly, stroking his hair and his cheeks like a precious doll.
I was so worried, but somehow you exceeded my expectations. Such a splendid hunter already. I taught you so well.
No, it was because this guy was a butthole. She lifted his chin and kissed his cheek. He flinched. His lips were cold against his skin, with none of a mother's warmth. Raku's first squeezed tightly around the eyeball and squished it until the innards oozed around his fingers like a cold jam. The comedy Marat was normally fresh as ice. She treated her son like a strict professionalism that one would expect from an employer. She only expressed outward affection like this on rare occasion, a word for pleasing her. Raku warmed out of her grasp, evading his mother's artificial attachment. He opened his hand, and the ruptured remnants of the eye dripped onto the stone underfoot.
I'm going to my room.
Of course. You must be exhausted. I'll prepare a bath and
Her her sweet voice faded to nothingness as Raku ran into the house. He sprinted down the hallway, refusing to pause for breath until he reached his room, slamming the sliding door shut. He reached into his closet and pulled out a heavy, covered futon that was folded neatly inside. He dragged it to the corner of his room and swatted himself into it, curling into the floor like a giant pelly potato bag. Rocket pressed his cheek against the ridges of the money, breaking back tears. He ripped his right palm against the front of his shirt, trying to ease the vulgar traces of his deeds. Someday he would leave this house. Someday he'll be free too. 10 years. Tricona University. Raku yawned, not bothering to cover his mouth. Last night, a raid had been particularly difficult. A few of their guild members had to cancel, so they were forced to party up with some randoms. The new additions were complete novices, who didn't know the mechanics in the slightest. He's a gamer now. After one of the randoms ignored the boss and wiped almost the entire raid, Raku ended up soloing the final chapter of the boss health, and the only damage dealer, it had been a jaw-crunching 30 minutes. He looked at the book in his hands, The Spider's Thread, and other stories. He wanted to hurry up and check this thing out so that he could go back and start his homework. The line wasn't long. His number was 4, but for some reason the person at the front was taking an abnormally long time. He'd been chatting with the librarian for 15 minutes at this point. Raku groaned. Maybe he should go home and come back later. His eyes caught on the backpack of the girl standing in front of him. A keychain swung from the handle, a small white and blue pixel art spaceship.
Space blasters?
He hadn't meant to say anything, but the words spilled out before he could stop them. The girl turned around. Walker froze. She looked around in confusion before twisting her head back to her bag. Her face relaxed.
That's right. I'm surprised you recognized it. Not many people know space blasters.
She laughed and brushed a few springy locks of hair out of her face.
It's a bit old, but that game was my entire childhood.
The girl looked at Raku. Eyebrow crinkled and quizzically.
Is something wrong? Is there something on my face?
No, he just saw something that his first crush. She smiled. Anyone could tell that it was a timid smile, a mask for her nervousness when dealing with a stranger, but Raku didn't notice. Instead, the smile stuck him like a beam of light, clearing away all the other thoughts in his brain until the only thing that he could see was a girl's face. Her smile was bright. It was brighter and more lovely and radiant than he could have ever imagined. She looked like the sun. He was glad there was no bruises or dark circles around her eyes, no fumbled brow. She seemed happy, so much happier than she'd been when he had last seen her. Seeing her last. The strange feeling sprouted in his chest, a strange, almost hopeful feeling. He swallowed before opening his mouth.
What's your name?
Thank you for taking. Okay, so this is in. If you like my content, please subscribe, like the video, help out, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. And we'll play the actual, sequel, technically the original version game that was actually supposed to play before this game. But I'm rebelling. So yeah, if you like my content, subscribe, like the video, help out, and comment below. See you guys next time.